We're going to take a look at savings plans. This would also be pretty similar to loan payments. Here we have a regular payment being paid into an account, and there is an interest accrued. The difference is really that in a savings plan, you put in a payment and the interest brings up that value. And so both are working in the same direction. Whereas in a loan payment plan, could be a car loan or an amortization schedule for a mortgage. There you start with a value, you're paying it down, but interest is bringing it back up. So there's kind of a fight that you have going on there. We'll start with saving plans. That's kind of the simpler option. We have a payment spreadsheet formula where we can find payment amounts. That's probably the most common problem that we'll look at. And there you have a present value, which is your principal. In this case, we don't have a loan, so that principal beginning amount would be 0, and we'll be saving up towards a future value. So here we can see where those last two inputs will need to be 0 and then a goal value. Starting off with the first problem in the homework, we have a future value of $800,000 in 20 years. It's earning 7% interest, and we have monthly deposits. So we'll look at it as monthly compounding as well. Just like I've set up other sheets, I could create a spreadsheet where I use the find payment function the same way every time. And here we're going to have similar inputs as we've had in some of these problems from the last video. We'll have compounding involved, so something like this would be pretty similar if you want to copy and paste a similar problem and not have to type quite so many things in, just like me here. I'm looking at question 1, although I am in a different assignment. I don't know if that's going to confuse you, but this is problem number 1 in section 2.3 for my homework. We have a future value, so that one's great. We've got a rate, an N per year in years. All of those are actually just what we want. Now, when we're saving up with a loan, we will start with typically a present value of 0. You could use this as an input if you started with maybe an initial investment and then you made payments after that. So I'll just create an input and I'll use 0 for my first problem. Now let me put in all the other details here. 800,000. The 7% is good. We had 20 years. We had 12 months per year and 20 years. Now, from all of these inputs, I will calculate my payment. This will be a dollar amount if you want to format it. And I can do equals PMT. Here I need to input the rate per period. That is going to be that percentage in C2 divided by my N of 12. Then I can do the number of periods, which is N times T, number of years, 12 months per year times 20 years. And my next input, it's asking for present value. Like I said, we'll have a 0 there. I did create an input for that. And then the future value is all the way down at the other end. Now, just like I faced this issue before, we get this weird sign change. I'll just put a negative in front of that. The payment seems right, and we can even check the work here. Let's figure out how much is put into this investment. Now, it won't be quite 800,000 because the interest is adding on to it, but it will also help us find the interest. So we can do total payments. Total payments will be the payment amount times the number of payments. So that's G2 for my payment times 20 years times 12 months, or whichever order you put that in. I'll go 12 months a year times 20 years to get me the total. Sometimes it's called total installment. The total amount paid in, and my interest, as always, is the difference between where it ended, and usually we'll say where it started, but in this case we'll say difference between where it ended and what was put in. So we can see that is a lot of interest. over those 20 years. And I'll check my answer here with that payment of $1,535.72. And now to do a similar problem, like usual, all I need to do is put in my new information and fill down everything else. So $2,000 payment in this case. This is a little different though. I'm not doing the same thing in this problem. I'm not finding a payment amount. In this problem, I have the payment there and I want to know the future value. So this is a little different. I'll create a new sheet for this. This is payments and payments to find future value. Be kind of a nice way to sum that up. I will copy what I had here because I'll have somewhat similar things going on there. Here I'm going to have a known payment amount with the rate and time, and I could keep that present value. We may need it for some problem where we have a starting amount, and then here, unknown future value. Before I work with these formulas, let's get my information in for this problem. This is a $2,000 deposit every year. It's going to be a payment of $2,000 in that case. We'll have 8% interest annually for 20 years. Back here for my payment, $2,000, 8%. Annually was once per year for 20 years. Now with that information, I can find my future value. I will put the negative in front like I did for the compound interest problems. We just have that sign flip involved. Take my rate divided by n. Now it is just 1, but in case we have problems later, we'll fill down the same formula and want that built in, just like n times years. Then we have our payment amount. Before we were putting 0 because we were just looking at a present value compounding. Now we've got payments with no present value. So that last input will be 0, or you can reference a cell where you've got 0 like I did. And I have my future value. I believe my payments function is not going to be right because I moved where the payment cell was. That might be an argument for not switching things around like the way I do, but everybody kind of has their own way. I like to have the outputs at the very end. So what I'm going to do to edit this total payment cell is I'm going to multiply payment times n times t. I just had to move the reference. Now I have 40 grand in total payments, and the interest should be actually G2. That was my future value minus my total of the payments. Now typically on these problems, they're just looking for that either payment amount or future value amount. In this case, we've got the future value. Now we can start to use what we've built to do similar problems. In problem 3, that last one was problem 2. I do want to update that. In problem 3 here, we again have a payment amount, number of years and percentage. Now they switched it to monthly, and they'll ask a few questions. They'll get to that interest that I've been doing in the past. So I'll start with my given information, $200, 2%, 20 years, and monthly. And I need to know how much money will you put in the account, how much will you have in 20 years, and how much interest. This will start with a present value of 0 again, and these last 3 I will just fill down. Now this is giving me a future value of 14 million. Something is not right. Oh, yes, we have 200% interest. That is not right. So we need to format these correctly. I'm going to highlight column B, get my dollars there, highlight column C, get my percent there. Now that should just be 2%, not 200 or whatever we had there. Everything else looks fine. We got some others there that could be in dollars. Now we've got a future value of a little under $60,000. It first wanted to know how much total money is put in the account. We have that here for the total payments. That's $48,000. Next, after 20 years, that is our future value. I'm going to copy that one. And we've got our interest as well for the third answer. The next problem looks pretty similar. Let's see if we can find any other variations. Up to number 6, we've got another problem here where we're looking to find the deposit or payment amount. That will take me back to this find payment spreadsheet that I set up in number 1, which means we're going to come back to it in number 6. Let's put in our future value. I've got $600,000. 4.3% quarterly. And just like on the last problem, I didn't get that percentage to work. I didn't get that dollar amount to work. So you may have to fill down that formatting or reformat those. Now those were all my inputs there. I think I did have a present value of 0 on this one just like before. I can double check. The only difference would be if they provided a number and said with a beginning value of maybe $20,000, how much should be invested each quarter. Then we could start with an initial present value of $20,000. Otherwise we just assume it's 0 and fill down those last 3 cells to get our payment, in this case $3,371.26. Next, we want to know how much money is going to be put in the account. We've got our total payments for that, as well as the interest. Now this one is going to grow to a huge amount because it's 25 years worth, but the interest isn't as big a percentage of that as you might think over that period of time. And as we go through these, you can kind of see how more and less interest plays a role, as well as how frequently you're compounding. Now the remainder of the problems, we have either looking for deposit amounts or problems where you have to find a future value. On this problem, there's definitely a lot going on. We've got a goal to save for taxes. Here it's a monthly investment. We want to know how much per month. Again, that's just finding a payment amount, finding a deposit amount. Now back on number 10, we just got back to a problem where we need to know the future value. We know the payment. So in this section, between those two sheets, you either know the payment or you don't. Depends on if you use the FV function to use the payment or the PMT function to find the payment.